Please note that the Bible teaches us to love everyone, and our hearts should be full of compassion. However, there are times when our help may unintentionally enable harmful behaviors, or even put us at risk spiritually and emotionally. The following chapters are meant to encourage prayerful discernment and wise boundaries so that our generosity does not become a stumbling block to either party. Chapter 1. The unappreciative. When help is rejected before it's given. We all want to help others. The Bible reminds us to love our neighbors and care for those in need. Yet, there are situations in which our genuine assistance might be met with a hardened heart, a rejection of the very gift we are offering. In Matthew 7 verse 6, Jesus said, "Do not give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine." This vivid imagery points to the truth that not everyone is ready or willing to receive help. Sometimes, people have already closed their hearts, and no amount of generosity will open them. Imagine you're trying to help someone who has repeatedly spurned your kindness. Perhaps you lend money, share wise counsel, or offer a listening ear, but each time, the person responds with disdain or indifference. Over time, this rejection can not only discourage you, but may also lead to bitterness. In these cases, your help may be wasted, and more importantly, it might even strengthen their resolve to live as they please rather than embrace a change of heart. Biblically, when we give freely to those who do not appreciate our help, we run the risk of casting pearls before swine. That is, offering something valuable to those who cannot recognize its worth. It is not a judgment on the worth of the person, but rather a recognition that our gift might be lost or even used against us. In everyday life, this can mean emotional burnout or financial strain if we continually give to those who reject it. We can see this in the story of the prodigal son. When the wayward son returned home, the father welcomed him with open arms because his heart was open to the possibility of change. But what if that son had never been willing to acknowledge his mistakes? The father's boundless generosity would have only reinforced a lifestyle of rebellion. In the same way, if someone refuses to recognize or value our help, we might find that our resources and energy are not being used to produce good fruit. The Bible also teaches us to exercise wisdom. Proverbs 27 verse 12 tells us, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." Recognizing that not everyone is prepared to accept help is not an act of cold-heartedness. It is a wise discernment that protects both you and the person you wish to serve. In other words, if someone's heart is closed off to change, your continued efforts might only prolong their suffering or even encourage them to continue in destructive patterns. So, how do we know when someone is truly unappreciative? Look for repeated patterns of behavior. Does the person consistently reject advice, refuse to listen, or even respond with contempt when you offer help? Do they seem to take your kindness for granted, showing no sign of gratitude or willingness to change their behavior? If so, it might be time to reconsider how, and even if, you offer your support. True help is not merely about handing out resources, it's about guiding someone toward a transformation of heart. Moreover, there is a danger in becoming overly attached to the idea that you must fix someone. When your help is continually unappreciated, you might begin to feel responsible for their change. However, each person is on a journey of their own, and sometimes God must work in ways beyond our ability to help. Our role is to be faithful stewards of our own resources and hearts, trusting that the Lord can reach those who seem unreachable. In summary, if you recognize that a person consistently rejects help, whether through ungratefulness, dismissiveness, or even hostility, it may be wise to hold back. Not helping in this situation does not mean you cease to love or care for the individual. It means you are choosing to invest your energy where it can bear fruit. Sometimes, leaving a door open for change, while protecting your own heart, is the most loving thing you can do. Take time to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever felt that your best efforts were met with resistance? Consider how those moments taught you the importance of discernment. Pray for the strength to recognize when your help is not being received, and trust that God's wisdom will guide you in using your gifts effectively. In this way, you honor both God and yourself by not pouring from an empty cup or enabling harmful behavior. In our next chapter, we will explore another type of situation, a time when offering help might actually enable continued wrongdoing rather than foster genuine transformation. Chapter 2. The Enablers of Sin, when our help becomes a crutch for wrongdoing. It is natural to want to rescue those who are mired in harmful behavior. The Bible calls us to care for the lost and to show Christ's love to all. However, there is a delicate balance between offering help and unintentionally enabling a lifestyle of sin. Sometimes, the very assistance we offer can become a crutch that allows someone to continue in wrongdoing without facing the necessary consequences for change. When we help someone who is actively engaged in sinful behavior, whether it be through financial aid, covering for their mistakes, or shielding them from the consequences of their actions, we might be providing them with a safety net that prevents them from growing up and taking responsibility. In the Bible, we see warnings against such enablement. For instance, the parable of the unforgiving servant, Matthew 18 verses 23 to 35, teaches us that while mercy is a divine attribute, it must be met with genuine repentance and a willingness to change. When help is offered without any expectation of transformation, it risks being a bandage on a wound that needs to be healed. Imagine a situation where a family member repeatedly engages in harmful behavior, perhaps substance abuse or irresponsible spending, and every time they falter, you step in to bail them out. Initially, your help might feel like a lifeline, but over time, it can encourage a cycle of dependency. The person learns that no matter how often they err, someone will always be there to rescue them, and they may have little incentive to change. This is not the love we are called to practice. True love, as taught by Jesus, involves guiding someone toward a better way of living, even if it means letting them face the natural consequences of their actions. The Apostle Paul reminds us in Galatians 6 verse 7 that a man reaps what he sows. When we continuously remove the natural consequences of sin, we inadvertently allow the person to continue down a path that only leads to further harm. Our help, instead of being a catalyst for change, becomes a means by which sin is perpetuated. It's like repeatedly applying a bandage to a wound without addressing the underlying infection. It might cover up the problem for a while, but eventually, the issue resurfaces even more powerfully. Of course, this is not to say that we should withhold all help from those struggling with sin. Jesus himself spent time with sinners, offering them the hope of redemption. However, our assistance should come with clear boundaries and a call to personal responsibility. For example, when a friend struggles with addiction, it is compassionate to encourage them to seek professional help and spiritual guidance, rather than simply providing them with money or shelter that might allow the destructive behavior to continue unchecked. In practical terms, consider what it means to help in a way that does not enable. First, set clear expectations. Help should be offered as a stepping stone toward change, not as a permanent solution. This might mean pairing your assistance with accountability measures, a mentor, a support group, or even regular check-ins that encourage growth. Second, pray for wisdom. Ask God to help you see whether your help is fostering independence or dependence. Sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is allowing them to experience the consequences of their choices so that they can learn and grow. There is also a spiritual component. When we help those who continue in sin without seeking change, we run the risk of becoming spiritually entangled in their struggles. The Bible advises us to be careful not to stumble over our own commitments by taking on burdens that are not ours to bear. In essence, our responsibility is to extend help that fosters freedom and transformation, not one that locks someone into a cycle of unrepentant behavior. A key point in discerning when our help might enable sin is to look for genuine signs of repentance. Is the person taking steps to change, Or are they content with the status quo? Do they express gratitude for the help given, or do they show little interest in making the changes necessary for a better life? When the answer leans toward indifference, it may be a sign that our help is being misdirected. In conclusion, while our hearts may cry out to help everyone in need, we must be careful that our assistance does not become an enabler of sin. Help should be a pathway to transformation, not a shield that protects someone from the natural consequences of their actions. Pray for discernment, set healthy boundaries, and always couple your help with an invitation to genuine change. In doing so, you honor the spirit of Christ's love, a love that empowers and liberates, rather than one that inadvertently holds others back from their true potential. In the next chapter, we will discuss another challenging type of interaction, the manipulative individuals who use our kindness for their own gain. Chapter 3. The Manipulators, guarding your generosity from those who twist it for their own ends. Offering help is a generous act, yet sometimes the very people we seek to assist are adept at twisting our kindness to serve their own selfish purposes. Manipulators are skilled at disguising their needs and concerns in a way that appeals to our compassion. They often know how to pull on our heartstrings, only to later use our resources or emotional energy for personal gain. The Bible encourages us to be wise and discerning in our interactions. In Proverbs 26 verses 24 to 26, we read about how deceitful lips may hide a double meaning. Similarly, a manipulative person might mask their true intentions behind a facade of vulnerability. Consider a scenario where a person constantly presents themselves as in dire need, be it financially, emotionally, or spiritually, but when you offer help, they quickly find ways to make you feel guilty or obligated. Their requests might come with subtle strings attached. Over time, you might notice that instead of working to resolve their issues, they seem to grow more dependent on your support. The danger here is not merely the exhaustion of your resources, but the erosion of your spirit and the distortion of your good intentions. Manipulators often know exactly how to push your buttons. They might use flattery, tears, or even feigned desperation to get you to act. Yet, once you've offered help, they may become distant, unresponsive, or even begin to demand more. The Bible warns us that while we are called to be generous, we should not be naive. Jesus taught us that not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father. Matthew 7 verse 21. It reminds us that mere words, or in this case, emotional appeals, do not always reflect a true heart of change. How can you tell if someone is manipulating your generosity? First, look at the pattern over time. Do they only come to you in crisis, only to disappear once they have received what they need? Is there a lack of follow-through or an absence of effort on their part to improve their situation? Manipulators rarely show a genuine desire to change. Instead, they often rely on your help as a safety net. Notice also if they express gratitude, or if they quickly move on to the next crisis without acknowledging your sacrifice. Genuine gratitude is a sign that help was received with humility and a willingness to change, whereas a manipulator may treat your kindness as a right rather than a gift. A wise approach is to set clear boundaries before extending help. The Bible teaches us to be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Matthew 10 verse 16. This means that while you should be kind, you must also be cautious. Ask questions that encourage accountability. What steps have you taken to solve this problem yourself? Or, how will this help lead you to a more stable future? By doing so, you transform your assistance from a one-time fix into an opportunity for growth. It is also important to rely on prayer and seek God's guidance. Ask the Lord to reveal any hidden motives, both in yourself and in those who ask for your help. Pray for the strength to say no when your resources or emotional well-being are at stake. In moments of uncertainty, take time to reflect on whether your help is creating dependency or empowering the other person to take control of their life. Sometimes, A gentle refusal can be more loving than a misguided attempt at rescue that ultimately leaves both parties hurt. Remember that setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of stewardship over the gifts God has entrusted to you. When you help others wisely, you not only preserve your own strength, but also encourage true independence and personal responsibility. The Bible is filled with examples of people who had to learn hard lessons about boundaries, from the story of the widow whose generosity was taken advantage of, to warnings in Proverbs about trusting those who repeatedly disappoint us. In everyday life, you might find that your generosity is best expressed through helping in ways that require a measure of participation. For instance, instead of giving money directly, you could offer to help someone develop a budget, find employment, or access counseling. This way, your help becomes a tool for empowerment rather than a crutch for continued manipulation. In summary, while our hearts may overflow with a desire to assist, it is crucial to be on guard against those who would twist our kindness for their own benefit. Manipulators know how to exploit our empathy, and if we are not careful, we may find ourselves caught in a cycle of giving without receiving the hoped for change. By setting firm boundaries, asking hard questions, and seeking God's wisdom in prayer, you can ensure that your help truly leads to positive change. In this way, you honor the spirit of Christ's love while protecting your own well-being and resources. In our next chapter, we will discuss another challenging group, those whose stubborn unwillingness to learn or change makes our help ineffective, the unteachable. Chapter 4. The unteachable, when a closed mind blocks the path to change. There are times when you feel compelled to offer help, advice, or guidance to someone who seems stuck in their ways. A person whose heart and mind are so set on their current lifestyle that no amount of counsel can open a door to change. The Bible speaks clearly about the danger of a hardened, unteachable heart. Proverbs 29 verse 1 tells us, "He who is often reproved, yet stiffens his neck, will suddenly be broken beyond remedy." In other words, if someone consistently refuses to learn from correction, the chance for meaningful transformation becomes very slim. Helping someone who is unteachable can be both exhausting and disheartening. You might find yourself offering advice again and again, only to see the same mistakes repeated over and over. Even as you pour out love and wisdom, the individual seems immune to the lessons you hope will lead them to a better path. Over time, your energy may be sapped by repeated failures to see any change. Moreover, continually investing in someone who is not willing to learn can distract you from using your gifts to help those who are ready to grow. Consider the analogy of watering a parched plant. If the soil is so hardened that it cannot absorb water, no matter how much you pour onto it, the plant will not flourish. Similarly, when a person's heart is closed off to new ideas or a different way of living, your efforts to help may simply be wasted. It is important to recognize that the process of learning and change must come from within. While you can provide the water of knowledge and love, the soil must be soft enough to receive it. Jesus often encountered those who were resistant to his teachings. In many instances, he offered gentle correction and patience, yet some remained unmoved. This is a sober reminder that even divine wisdom can fall on ears that are too stubborn or proud to listen. When faced with someone who is unteachable, it may be best to offer help only in ways that do not compromise your own well-being, such as prayer, gentle encouragement, or simply being a loving presence, rather than trying to force a change that is not yet ready to happen. One practical step when dealing with the unteachable is to set realistic expectations. Ask yourself, is this person willing to learn at all? Have I seen any small signs of change or openness? If the answer is no, then it might be time to reconsider the nature and extent of your help. Instead of pouring your time, money, or energy into someone who has repeatedly rejected wisdom, consider channeling your efforts into environments or relationships where the potential for growth is higher. It can also be helpful to seek wise counsel from trusted friends, mentors, or church leaders. Sometimes an outside perspective can clarify whether your efforts are making a difference or simply draining you. Remember the wisdom of Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. There is a time to help and a time to step back. Learning to recognize the difference is essential for maintaining your own spiritual and emotional health. Another important aspect is understanding that you are not responsible for forcing change upon someone else. The Bible teaches that each person must come to the truth on their own. Your role is to plant seeds of wisdom and kindness, but ultimately, it is the work of the Holy Spirit to soften hearts and open minds. Sometimes the best help you can offer is simply to model a life that reflects God's love and wisdom, trusting that in time, those who are ready will learn from your example. It is natural to feel compassion for those who seem stuck in their ways, but compassion does not require you to sacrifice your own well-being. There is a difference between extending a loving hand and being taken advantage of. When you recognize that someone is unteachable, consistently rejecting constructive feedback, advice, or spiritual counsel, it may be time to pray for them from a distance. In doing so, you honor both your need for self-care and the biblical call to pray for the transformation of others. In closing, remember that while you are called to love, you are also called to be wise. Not every cry for help is one that can or should be answered in the way you might hope. Recognize that if someone's heart remains closed despite your best efforts, continuing to push your help may only lead to frustration and exhaustion for both of you. Instead, trust that God is at work, even when you cannot see immediate change. Maintain your compassion, but also protect your own capacity to love by setting healthy boundaries and focusing your efforts where they can truly make a difference. In our next chapter, we will examine the challenge of helping those who are selfish, individuals who take generously without ever offering anything in return. Chapter 5. The selfish. When one-sided generosity drains your spirit. Generosity is a beautiful expression of God's love, and the Bible urges us to give cheerfully. Yet, there are times when our help is met with unbalanced expectation, a one-way street where the receiver takes without ever giving back. In such cases, our well-intended generosity can become a drain on our resources, energy, and even our spirit. This chapter explores the biblical and practical wisdom of recognizing when help is being misused by those who are unceasingly selfish. Selfish individuals often approach you with a request for assistance, and their need may seem genuine at first. However, over time, you notice a pattern. They continuously accept your help without ever taking steps to improve their situation or reciprocate in any meaningful way. Instead of growing in independence, they become increasingly reliant on your generosity. This is not only unsustainable, but may also lead to a sense of resentment on your part. The Bible speaks to the principle of sowing and reaping in Galatians 6 verse 7. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap. When you give to someone who never offers back, you may be sowing seeds that will not produce a harvest of gratitude or growth. Rather, you may find yourself trapped in a cycle of endless giving that ultimately benefits only the selfish individual. Selfishness is not always immediately obvious. At first, a person might appear charming, grateful, or in genuine need. However, if you observe that their gratitude is fleeting, or that your help is expected as a matter of course rather than received with a spirit of thankfulness, it may be time to reconsider how you offer your support. Ask yourself, is this relationship balanced? Do I see any effort on their part to contribute, improve, or show genuine care? If not, your help may be fueling an unhealthy dynamic. One biblical caution comes from the story of the widow's mite, Mark 12 verses 41 to 44. In that account, Jesus praised the widow who gave all she had, even though her offering was small, because it was given from a heart of sincere devotion. Compare this with those who take without giving back. The widow's act was marked by sacrifice and humility, whereas selfish individuals are characterized by a lack of reciprocal generosity. The lesson here is that true giving comes from a desire to share God's blessings, not from an expectation of something in return. Setting boundaries is an essential step in dealing with selfishness. It is perfectly acceptable, and indeed wise, to say no when your resources or emotional strength are being depleted. True help is not merely about handing out resources, it's about guiding someone toward a transformation of heart. Moreover, there is a danger in becoming overly attached to the idea that you must fix someone. When your help is continually unappreciated, you might begin to feel responsible for their change. However, each person is on a journey of their own, and sometimes God must work in ways beyond our ability to help. Our role is to be faithful stewards of our own resources and hearts, trusting that the Lord can reach those who seem unreachable. In summary, if you recognize that a person consistently rejects help, whether through ungratefulness, dismissiveness, or even hostility, it may be wise to hold back. Not helping in this situation does not mean you cease to love or care for the individual. It means you are choosing to invest your energy where it can bear fruit. Sometimes, leaving a door open for change, while protecting your own heart, is the most loving thing you can do. Take time to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever felt that your best efforts were met with resistance? Consider how those moments taught you the importance of discernment. Pray for the strength to recognize when your help is not being received, and trust that God's wisdom will guide you in using your gifts effectively. In this way, you honor both God and yourself by not pouring from an empty cup or enabling harmful behavior. In our next chapter, we will explore another type of situation, a time when offering help might actually enable continued wrongdoing rather than foster genuine transformation. Chapter 2. The enablers of sin, when our help becomes a crutch for wrongdoing. It is natural to want to rescue those who are mired in harmful behavior. The Bible calls us to care for the lost and to show Christ's love to all. However, there is a delicate balance between offering help and unintentionally enabling a lifestyle of sin. Sometimes, the very assistance we offer can become a crutch that allows someone to continue in wrongdoing without facing the necessary consequences for change. When we help someone who is actively engaged in sinful behavior, whether it be through financial aid, covering for their mistakes, or shielding them from the consequences of their actions, we might be providing them with a safety net that prevents them from growing up and taking responsibility. In the Bible, we see warnings against such enablement. For instance, the parable of the unforgiving servant, Matthew 18 verses 23 to 35, teaches us that while mercy is a divine attribute, it must be met with genuine repentance and a willingness to change. When help is offered without any expectation of transformation, it risks being a bandage on a wound that needs to be healed. Imagine a situation where a family member repeatedly engages in harmful behavior, perhaps substance abuse or irresponsible spending, and every time they falter, you step in to bail them out. Initially, your help might feel like a lifeline, but over time, it can encourage a cycle of dependency. The person learns that no matter how often they err, someone will always be there to rescue them, and they may have little incentive to change. This is not the love we are called to practice. True love, as taught by Jesus, involves guiding someone toward a better way of living, even if it means letting them face the natural consequences of their actions. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more teaching about life. Thank you.